Okay, for now we're going to, in part 2 of this build, we're going to put the I/O shield into the case. It's just a static fit. Just press it in. You want to make sure you orient this properly. Typically, the speaker holes are towards the slots for, as you can see on this one where I do this, uh, where you put the extra parts like a sound card or a video card. Um, and now I'm taking out the screws. Usually I like, when I do a build, I like to make sure the screws fit into the standoffs for the motherboards. And now I'm taking those out. And I already have the orientation done for putting the standoffs off for the holes for the motherboard. You might want to do this by just kind of dry fitting it in at some point without the standoffs and see what holes you need and where they are, and then putting them in, and you can see the motherboard. And here you see there are 4 slots. RAM slots are filled up, and the RAM I'm using for this is the Kingston Fury. I believe this is the 1800. I can't remember the last digit personally, but this is there's, I believe, 16 gig on this build for this board. What's nice about this board, actually, for this, there are 8 SATA ports, but they won't be used. There's only 3 that will be used on this board at the moment. In this case, I'm just demonstrating this and showing how to what you can put into this case, the size. And this is very important to the size of the motherboard. I basically, when I go online, I check out, see what I want to do. If I buy a case, I start with the case first, see what it does and what size, and then I check that out, measurements, and then I check out and see what measurements I need for a motherboard, or what processor I want to use. In this case, this one is I believe 8.25, 8.25 inches. I wouldn't. This case actually is recommended for a micro motherboard. I actually wouldn't use a micro board, because typically micro boards, as far as I can tell, are 9 inches by 9 inches, and the 9 inches won't give you enough clearance with the power supply. But using a full ATX board that is 8.5 inches by the typical, I believe it's 12 or 11 and a half, will do a build in this case perfectly. Okay, now I'm showing a little bit of the cable management that I did, and I'm showing the wires. I'm going to go through and put the wires that go to the motherboard for the switches. Yeah, I'm going to try to get them set, moving some wires out of the way. I believe I put in as you can see in the background, there are wires for the speaker, and the front USB are already installed, tied down. And now I'm doing the front for the LEDs, and for and the power switch and the reset switch, and installing those. And you want to think in this, you'll see that I'm going to bring out the manual. Yep. And here comes the manual. Yep. Bring out the manual, and it shows, okay, where the switches go. This is where the manual comes in handy. It shows where the switches go. You want to follow that, get them in. LED, and then the speaker, little speaker that comes with the package in the with the case. And it's weird that it doesn't come with the motherboard, but it does come with the case. And now we're going to wire tie. This is what I like to do with these when I do a build. Um, Anything that has to do with the case itself, I like to get um, wire tie these and do some wire management, because these will always be in the same, basically in the same position anyway. So wire tying and getting these into the right spot, and there you go with that tool that I was mentioning in part 1 that I use for wire tie. And I will show that. You will see it pretty soon. Now I flip it over and you see that I wire tied the cord that goes to the power supply already. Got that all wire tied up. Now I'm doing the front, and I will wire tie this up. And like I said, I like to do these so that I can get them into a good position. I'm going to try to, now I'm looking and checking, and I'm going to wire tie these again into another position so that they come out past the motherboard edge. And you get them in. I'm using a black one. Typically for wire ties, I like to go to a dollar store to pick these up. You get them fairly cheap. I usually like to look for the black ones, but sometimes you might have to go for white. And then the one time I believe I went into one dollar store and I found multicolored, which was not too bad when I'm doing a build with multiple hard drives and CD-ROM. So I know what I can use color code basically for to know what hard drive is using what SATA port. So I know which one I mark it. I take a wire tie, put it at the bottom where I plug it into the motherboard, and then I use another one where I plug it into the hard drive itself, which is a good way of distinguishing when you're doing a build with multiple hard drives. Like I said, with this case, there's ports for 6, for 8 actually, SATA. So you could actually use one CD-ROM and then 7 hard drives on this motherboard. And trying to figure out which one is which when you want to unplug. Having color-coded ties helps to determine, well, okay, one is pink, this one is blue, this one is black, this one's white, and this one is blue, purple, etc., etc. And now you can see I'm wire tying this into position. And what you want to do when I'm doing this, I typically get from the motherboard in, and I kind of get this tight, and I'm trying to push everything out so that even if I have to take the front clip off, the front of the case off, so I can get to some things, all I got to do is unclip one little clip, and then I've got enough cord from the build that I can actually do, and then I can pull it off, and then there's just enough wire that I can get into the front if I need to, like if I need to replace the power supply. Like I said, basically it's all these cords are typical for this case. So positioning is on most motherboards are basically in the same spot. So wire tying these parts down, even the cord that goes to the power supply in the front on this case, you can see it's looped and tied. It's in this spot. It will always be in the same spot, and basically the plug-in for them are always in the same spot. So you could do these for the case. It's just when you get to a point where you want to, once you get to a point where other options are plugged in from the power supply. And now you're going to see where I'm going to try to plug in the 4 pin on the motherboard for this is the CPU pin. I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to try to orient. I'm going to check and see. You can see that I got a wire tied the other end, which is the other 4 pin, which I don't need for this motherboard. Now I'm going to check and see if maybe putting the fan and putting the wires over the top of the fan. If you wait for a second, that will come up. And there's the fan, and this is the Coolermaster fan, of course. I would not use anything else. And I'm checking the fan orientation to make sure that the air is going to be, this fan will suck the air out of the case. And you can see I'm trying to see, okay, I'm dry fitting, see if putting it over the top will work. And at some point I decide, well, let's see if I put it at the bottom. Maybe that will work. Yeah, and I don't like that. Now I'm moving it. See, and I'm going to move this to the bottom. Reposition. Take this and put it at the bottom of the fan. Bring the fan in. And of course this fan that I'm using is a 4 pin so that the motherboard will take control. If the temperatures in the case get a little too warm, it will increase the speed of the fan. It has full control over the fan speed. This is a good option. One of the good options if you're looking for a fan is to have one with that. There are several spots on the motherboard that have that ability, especially on the Asus boards. Gigabyte boards are also another board that I like because of that option. You can utilize 4 pin with the motherboards, and if the heat gets a little too high, the fans will increase to draw out the air, which is very important because everybody knows heat can kill. Here I am, I'm driving the screws into it, and you can see I decided it was at the bottom better. And after this, you will see I will start doing a little cable management with this build. And I'm coming to the conclusion of this. I'm just screwing this in, and then we will move into part 3. Again, this is an Asus motherboard. It was an A88X Plus board. This was a perfect size. I believe, like I said, it was 8.5, so there's plenty of room. And it had 8 set of ports on it. And this is an AMD build. Again, is the 77K APU. And this ends part